Hi, this is James Hayes with Enchanted Images, and today I'm going to be doing a brief overview and a short demonstration of the brand new Phottix Mitros Plus small flash system. This was just released from Phottix, and I have to start by apologizing for my last review of the regular Phottix Mitros. I was pronouncing it incorrectly. It is in fact pronounced Mitros, not Mitros, as I had said before, so sorry about that. Before I get into what is so special about this new flash system from Phottix, I'm going to do talk about a quick history of using small flashes off camera, as we have done has become so popular in the last number of years. So real quickly, before we talk about that, in order to get a flash off the camera and have it fire the way that we want it to do, one had to have the flash unit itself, have some sort of a connection cable, usually the dreaded PC sync cable that is wobbly, doesn't work very well, known for its misfires. Then of course you have to have a receiver and plug that in and connect that, and then that's supposed to sit on a light stand somehow and gaff tape it together or whatever else you need to do. And that was how it all started. Then things started to get a little bit more sophisticated. Cameras started coming out with, or camera companies started coming out with flash units that had dedicated receivers. Phottix made this one last year. This is the Odin system. It's a dedicated receiver that sits on the bottom shoe like this, and it allows TTL functions. Pretty slick. I used this for quite a long time, and this has been my rig of choice for a while. It gives us all the TTL functions that we expect out of these small flashes, and you can use them off camera. And that was that. What makes the new version so significant and so special is that this receiver unit is now built into the flash. No longer do we need to have a dedicated receiver that sits on the hot shoe or is connected via a sync cable on the side. You don't have to have that. It's all built right in. Why is that significant? Well, it makes things go a lot faster. It makes things a lot more reliable. It's one less thing to worry about. It's one less thing to have to replace batteries for, which I've had to do several times and have been stuck. It's one less thing to have to be a connection point, something that might be, you know, wobbly or add height to the overall flash that you no longer need. So it's all built into this unit now, which makes it really special. I've been using them for a while, and I've had the opportunity to test and try these for multiple situations. I've used a set of these on a wedding. I've used them in portrait scenarios, and they have been flawless. They have I've had no misfires. I've used them with the Odin controller, which I'll get to in a minute, and I've used them triggering with another Mitros Plus, which is another option that is just makes this thing very versatile, very expandable, and very compatible with a lot of systems that you have. So very quickly, I want to talk about the different ways that this light can be triggered. There are a lot of different ways that one can trigger the Mitros Plus in an off-camera situation or even on-camera situation, but my main setup of choice has been using the Odin controller here. This sits on top of the camera. This can control all of the functions virtually of this light, and up to 3 groups of lights. I don't know how many the max is. I've controlled up to 3 at once, no problem. I usually have a main light on group A and my kicker lights or my backlight on group B, but it's as simple as turning the Mitros on. It's already in the Odin receive mode. Turning on my Odin, you can see on my group A I am in 1/16 manual power, and away we go. Testing the light, and it's just that simple. And it works like that on top of the camera as well. I've had no issues with turning lights on first or controllers first, and any misfires, any which way it goes, I just turn them on and they work. So that's the main way that I will trigger this light, is with this controller. Another way to trigger this light I believe there are at least 5 ways of triggering this. I might be mistaken on that. The Mitros has instead of a PC sync port, I'll get this open here, maybe. It has this traditional 1/8 inch jack for basically compatible with all of your studio lights. So you can connect easily to a Pocket Wizard or whatever else you have in the studio. That takes a traditional 1/8 inch port. It's exactly the same. So it's a seamless integration in using it in studio environments. I do it all the time, and it works well with my Elinchrom units. It works well with Pocket Wizard units. I haven't tested much more beyond that, but this is another basic way to fire. It becomes a basic trigger at that point. It doesn't have the TTL functions, but still it's very compatible with existing lights that you might have. The next way that this can be triggered is via an optical slave that's built into the front of the unit. Like I said before with the previous Mitros unit, this is something that Canon users, or Nikon users rather, have enjoyed for a while. Canon users have not, so it's a welcome addition. It's a simple matter of clicking over to the side and setting your, I'm going to go down here and set it to optical slave, and that's it. And now we're in optical slave, and it works. It's very sensitive. It works well with my studio lights. I use it all the time when I need just a quick kicker light behind. I'll throw this on a stand, and my big strobes will trigger that. Another way of triggering this light, and this is again a huge advantage if someone just needs a more basic trigger function and a receiver function and doesn't need all the TTL functions, built in again to this light is a receiver that will is compatible with the Phottix Strato. And there I'm setting it to the Strato, and now it becomes a basic receiver, non-TTL, but it's, again, you don't have to connect anything to the light. You can trigger this light with a Strato unit sitting on top of your camera, and it again does not require an additional receiver unit. Super versatile. The next way of firing this unit is with another Mitros Plus. This is going to be a big deal, I think, for wedding photographers, and I used it this way. So I had one Mitros Plus on my camera with a Rogue small softbox, kind of aimed up off the top as a diffuser. Turn on the light. This one's already set, but this is set as basically, it works as an Odin controller, but also can have a light source. This is really a great deal, and it's super convenient. You can see here, here's all the readouts for your groups. L is for the unit itself. Right now I have it set to TTL, but you can just quickly decide, oh, I'm going to switch that to manual mode, or just turn it off completely. So no light is coming out of the flash on camera, and it's only being used as a controller for these. A group is what I have this slave, I believe, set to. Oh, no, I can see I'm on channel B, so I'm going to go over and switch that to channel A. We should get a fire there. Nope, I need to have that one on the camera. And I can control all the other groups, again, right from the camera. Right now they're all set to TTL, but a quick switch in the mode button sets it to manual, or you can turn it off. And I had this set up at a wedding. I had the unit on the camera set to TTL, and I would fly through the EVs. I'd keep it usually at -1 to -2, and then I had group A. I had it on manual mode, and I had that one right behind the bride and groom for the first dance, and had an assistant walking around with that light behind. And again, I was able to control the output of the remote flash with this one on the camera. All radio, no extra receivers. Super easy and ready to go. So this is my setup that I usually use with the Mitros units. It's 2 Mitros Plus units mounted on the Phottix multi-boom. And let me talk about this for just a second. This is basically an extended umbrella swivel mount. It's called the multi-boom, though. It's this rod here that fits into a traditional umbrella mount bracket. This one's made by Phottix. It's metal. It's really well built, so I'm using that one. But what it does, and the reason why I use that with these is, and I'm going to show you with an umbrella, which I don't normally use, a regular umbrella, but this is still an umbrella mount right at the top here. You can see there. And the main purpose of this is that when you use an umbrella mount modifier, it makes the light source very, very even with the center of the umbrella. If you've used umbrella swivel mounts by themselves with speed lights, and especially when you have a speed light that's got a receiver, a shoe mount receiver built into it, it even raises it higher. Sometimes the axis of the light is hitting towards the top of the umbrella, so this keeps everything right in the middle. So this is what I would normally use as far as putting the lights on a mount. My typical setup, though, when I'm out, so normally I use a collapsible umbrella mount softbox rather than a traditional umbrella. This is a Apollo small or medium softbox. They make them larger as well, but it pops open just like an umbrella, turns into a fairly large light source. And then this just mounts through that same umbrella mount on the multi-boom as a traditional umbrella. Tighten it down here, and there we go. So now we've got a nice big light source here. The Mitros Plus units are aimed backwards, bouncing off the rear of the umbrella and then coming through the front of the softbox. So works like a traditional umbrella, but just has a big baffle on the front here. The other reason I use this Phottix multi-boom, I'm going to raise this a little bit higher so you can see, is because of that rod and the way it's positioned and its extended height, it allows me to bend and get some much steeper angles than I normally would be able to do with an umbrella mount. I can angle it all the way down if I need to. And it comes with a counterweight, which I don't have attached here because I don't use it all that often. I rarely have a steep angle like this, but you can see you can really get a steep angle now with any sort of modifier. Very, very versatile, very handy to use, and I use this function of it all the time. So typically I would have this set up here as my main light for location shooting. Sometimes even in the studio, if I'm in a pinch and don't want to move lights around, this comes in handy because it's all self-contained and ready to go. So this is my main light, and then backlight would be another Mitros Plus. I usually have it gelled warm with a Rogue gel to simulate sunlight if I'm having it as a backlight, or coming through trees if I'm trying to simulate sunlight again, if I'm not in a place where the sun is where I want it. This I usually have set to channel B. My main lights, both Mitros, are set to channel A. That way I can control their output independently from the Odin controller on the back of the camera. So as far as using them, it's about as straightforward as it gets. I turned both lights on. They were already set to channel A. Turn the Odin on. Channel A is set to TTL. Turn on the camera. Focus and fire. And that's really about as simple as it gets. I don't have to worry about turning on receivers, receiver cables. I don't have to worry anymore about batteries in my receivers. I just put the units on the stand, open the umbrella. I've got battery indicators on the units themselves to tell me if I need to replace the batteries or if the batteries are even getting a little bit low. It's just fast. Every time I run out with this setup, it takes me virtually no time at all to set it all up. And same with the backlight. Having that on its own channel, again, all controlled from the back of this little controller here, the Odin controller, makes it super easy. Because these are often 50, 60, 100 feet away maybe, the backlight. I might have it across a creek or any number of places, and to be able to control this remotely, and it's so compact now. No dangly cables, wires, receivers. Again, it just makes this whole setup really quick and easy to use. I'm going to go through a couple of images here that I have made with these units and talk about them a little bit. This first one is an image from the wedding I spoke about before. This is during the dance. I had the Mitros on the camera with small softbox. That was just flying TTL, and then the back light unit was off to the camera left behind the bride and groom, and that was set to a manual power, I believe at a 16th power. Pretty simple. I gelled the backlight with a Rogue gel, and the softbox was a small Rogue softbox that sat on the camera. This next image is from a high school senior session. We were inside of a hotel, and so there was a lot of ambient lights and a lot of incandescent bulbs that were pretty dimly lit. So I didn't need a lot of power, but I did need to be able to control things quickly. So this first image is the main light is lit with a Mitros inside of an Apollo softbox, and there's really no light from that front globe going to her face. It's all going from the Mitros, but I needed to expose to make sure that those globes weren't overexposed in the shot, and so her face was actually quite dark, so I used the Mitros to make it look like that was the illumination was from the globe. And then I have another Mitros unit with a Rogue grid aimed at the wall, at the mirror and the plant behind. It's also gelled to match. This last image is another high school senior session. I was on my own on this session. I didn't have an assistant, and this I came across this scene where there was this log in a creek, and the sun was kind of facing the wrong way. I like to have a lot of backlight, but I really liked this composition, so I grabbed a Mitros Plus, put it on a stand, ran across the creek over the bridge, set it up across the creek, ran back, knew that I could control everything from the Odin controller, and it was of course gelled with a CTO, and 2 clicks and some minor adjustments on the Odin, and I had this image with this kind of a nice sunlight looking glow behind the subject.